Technology and modern life have destroyed many of our primary relationships. Some of us feel unloved, disconnected, not good enough, and we are adrift apart from those we love. I'm Lisa Mosbey. Welcome to A Bit of Insight with Lisa Mosbey. I'm your show host today. Our needs have slowly been silenced as we lose perspective on our relationships with ourselves and our significant others. Do you want to feel more loved? Do you want to feel valued in your relationships? Then I want you to meet my guest today, Dawn Bennett. She has been helping people heal for decades using massage, craniosacral and visceral massage therapy to classical homeopathy and EFT tapping, neurolinguistics programming, and hypnotherapy. She has a really big toolbox, you guys. And I'm not done there. She's also written 2 books and traveled extensively around the country doing lives, Facebook lives, LinkedIn lives, just communicating her message to people all over the place. But what's most important to her is that you have the tools to use at home to support yourself. And she's here to share with you how to create play, synergy, connection, and intimacy in your relationships. Dawn, thank you so much for being here. Please welcome Dawn Bennett, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you today and to get the message and just remind people about self-love and how loved they are in the world.
Yeah. Today's topic, I didn't share the title of the show. It's Love Without Limits, Healing, Play, and Partnership. Love Without Limits. That's where we're going to start. How do we start to develop this self-relationship and confidence within ourselves? Because it really starts within us first. Those relationships out there are secondary. What's your philosophy about that?
So my philosophy, first of all, is that our beliefs about who we are or who we're supposed to be or what makes us quote unquote lovable defines our own ability to self-love. So we hear all the time like, oh, love yourself and, do it by self-care and love yourself by setting boundaries and love yourself by. But let me ask you a question. Like, have you ever been told that you're beautiful and smart? Yeah. Have you ever been told that you're ugly and stupid, maybe even in like 2nd grade or something by someone like mean, right? So which one did you choose to believe about yourself? And how do you speak to yourself every day? Because the thing is, our brain often looks at where we're not enough. And it's part of the human condition, right? I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. I don't have any power. Like these are core human experiences that we all go through. And so it's what our brain naturally finds. And so what we get to do is start looking at how do we counter those messages that we have within ourselves that came from, childhood, from life experiences, from our own pressures on ourselves and those kinds of things. That's where self-love starts.
Yeah. For me, I love to do massage. It's my mental health break, and you have a strong background in massage and taking care of our body and then tying that with EFT, which is the emotional freedom technique. And I'll let you explain to folks what that is. But that is like tapping into ourselves and our body. How do we use that to, like you mentioned, which story did you believe about yourself? How do we release that old stuff from that time when somebody did say you were ugly or did say something bad about you, so that we open up and free ourselves to believe the other story? And it's not a story, it's the truth. Every single person on this planet is beautiful and valuable and contributes to society. And that's what we should know about ourselves. But yet we do choose that other story. How does EFT help us get in the right space?
Right. So our brain can't tell the difference between past, present, and future. And it also can't tell the difference between real and imaginary, which is why you can think of something in the past and get yourself all sad or worked up or angry or whatever, or happy or joyful, right? Depending upon the emotion we're looking at. Or why you can be like, oh, if I don't do this, then that person will get angry at me. And then you start making up the story about how it's going to go and you feel it all inside. So what emotional freedom techniques or tapping does is to put it simply, it disconnects whatever the pattern is that we've been using in our neurology or in our brain that tells us what to believe, what to feel, and how to react when we come across a certain situation. Like, so for example, if I remember the bully when I'm 8, right? A lot of us were bullied or something when we were young, or we had that one person who was really cruel to us in some way. If someone says something now and my brain goes back to that bully, just unconsciously, like not even like you're like, oh, I'm thinking about that bully and that's how I'm choosing to react. If that's where our brain is going, that's where we're naturally going to react of like, oh, I'm being bullied and I should do whatever I did when I was in 2nd grade. Hide, yell, scream, be afraid, go tell the teacher, like whatever it is, right? So we react the same. So what tapping does is it kind of disconnects that pattern. So now we can think back to that bully. So like now if I think back to that bully and I feel angry that they did that to me, or maybe I feel sad for that little girl that was bullied, right? Whatever I feel, that's our neurological connection. So I do tapping, acknowledging that, hey, even though I still feel sad or I still feel angry thinking about that, right here, right now, I'm okay. I'm powerful. I'm strong. I'm safe. And what that does is that tells the brain, oh, I don't have to react that way anymore. And so now it allows us to step into our power. It allows us to step into our strength, into our peace, into our calm, into our well-being, so we can move forward and with choice. That's what the beauty of tapping is.
So beautiful. As soon as you started doing that, I kind of settled in a little bit. I'm not even tapping. I mean, I do tap, but I use this one down here because a lot of times people don't see it, or when I drive, I'm constantly tapping on my that thalamus point. It just calms my nervous system. But I was touching nothing. In fact, I'm holding on to caffeine, which should be amping me up a little bit. And as I'm watching you tap through that, I'm like, okay, just settle into your chair. Like, I'm not thinking this. My body just did this. Watching you tap, I started to relax into the setting. So it's amazing how quickly this works. And we're talking about emotional things, thought processes that we have had since childhood, but this also works on not just our thoughts, but our nervous system. And then does it also work on physical ailments, physical sensations that we're having?
Yes and no. Like, yes, it does, but it's called emotional freedom technique. So technically, as a non-licensed provider who can't diagnose or treat physical stuff, I'm working with the emotional component of physical stuff. But think of it this way: when you're angry, where do you feel it in your body? And if it creates a physical sensation in you over time, that can become an actual like set, quote unquote, kind of pathology, right?
Yeah.
So we often find that when people are in some kind of pain, when they have some kind of illness, there's actually been a lot of research even done on EFT for cancer. Because also when we remove the fear, the fight flight of, oh my gosh, I have cancer and, and what if I die? And what about my family and all this stress?
Yeah.
We remove the emotional stress and the body can heal faster. Right? And so part of that is that, yes, sometimes the emotions cause pain or physical symptoms in our body. Sometimes removing the emotional stressors allows the body to put resources to heal what needs to be healed. Right? So that's kind of how we talk about the relationship between the two, because we know they're not separate. Right? But technically, I can't use EFT to treat.
That's why we call them alternative modalities, right? They're alternative modalities. They're complementary modalities. I was trained as a holistic health practitioner. Many of the folks that watch this know that I kind of retired from that many years ago. And EFT was part of the solution for so many things, because I believed and I was trained that there's an emotional component to every disease, to everything. It starts with the emotion first. Like, the emotions actually start to create dis-ease in the body. And then we see these physical symptoms. So we have tools. Massage is another one that I want to pop over that you mentioned. CranioSacral, and I'm not sure, visceral massage. Maybe give us some definitions on some of these other things that you do, because I know what a difference massage makes in my life. I haven't been for a while since I'm traveling and living in Airbnbs, and I had a regular massage therapist that I saw every other Tuesday. What a difference from having that to not having that for the last 8 months.
Right, right. So most people know about like what massage is in general, right? And it's a broad term classification. Craniosacral was brought to the massage world and to other worlds actually by an osteopath named Dr. John Upledger. And so what it is, it's a light touch therapy that works with the rhythm of the craniosacral system. So the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that come out of it. And so what it is we start feeling the fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord fills and quote unquote drains in a rhythm, right? That we can feel not only energetically, but also it can be measured through science, but we can feel it moving or where it's stuck. So just like you can get a tight muscle, if my, like, let's say I get a concussion, right? Those little soft tissues in my brain get damaged. They get stuck. They get dehydrated, right? If I get hit, like if I have, anything in my head, or like I get a bad ear infection, those things can get stuck. If I have a fall, if I have an injury anywhere, those things get stuck. So craniosacral releases those soft tissues so that fluid can flow. And of course, when we're releasing the tissues in the brain and the nervous system, we start moving things through that change our emotional state, that are good for ADHD, that are good for, like we use it with infants even who are having problems sucking because if the hard palate's in the wrong spot and they can't latch on their mom, right? So we work the top of their mouth and balance that out. Eye problems, chronic ear infections when things aren't draining, chronic sinus infections, but all kinds of emotional things as well. They're doing studies on that and visceral massage together with PTSD and chronic concussions. Yeah. So especially in sports athletes. So visceral massage is kind of the same thing, right? So there are types of massage where like, just to kind of show, we're like, I'm rubbing my abdomen or maybe like working massage. Visceral is more like, okay, what's happening with the stomach? Mm-hmm. How is it moving? Oh, it's moving this way, but not this way. I'm exaggerating a little bit, right? But I'd feel like, what's the stomach doing? Oh, it wants to go this way, but doesn't want to go this way. So there's scar tissue in there. Maybe once again, from an injury, from dehydration, maybe my liver got inflamed at one point in time from an illness. Maybe I threw up a bunch of times when I was a kid and that created something stuck here, right? So I release, I just really gently hold and release and help those tissues open up. So visceral is really great because some of the things you don't realize that you think need you massage before are actually visceral. For example, when your stomach is stuck, it can affect your left shoulder. When your liver's stuck, it can affect your right shoulder. So people that are always having right shoulder pain and like none of the massage and the PT, nothing's making it better, try getting your liver worked by a visceral therapist and that'll release the ligaments on the rib cage. So you can, because if your rib cage isn't moving because your liver's stuck, you're overusing your shoulder. And we forget how connected this is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mine was my left shoulder. I had a bike injury and I kept saying it's my bike injury, but because I know there's emotional component to everything, for 3 years, couldn't lift my arm, couldn't move it. And fine, I don't know what broke it free, but I'm 100%, everything is working. I did do physical therapy. I did acupuncture. I had so many needles. I bet she counted like 100 needles in like from this all the way around to the other side. And I believe like acupuncture, emotional, to me, that's another emotional freedom. I know they're physically putting the needles in, but it releases stuff from the cells. So you don't even have to know why things are stuck sometimes. Even with emotional freedom technique, I just don't feel right. I feel off. I'm not my happy, joyful self. Start tapping and see if you can't move it out of your cells. You don't always have to know what's happening. The therapies know. The body knows what it's experiencing and knows how to release it. That is just fascinating to me. So I'm going to I'll be in Minnesota this summer. I'm making a list of the things that I need to come see you about. Like I said, I had great resources in Minnesota. There's such a beautiful healing community that I got to be part of for a long, long time. And now on the road, it's hard to find those people, though I did find a wonderful shaman in Peru, but I don't have those consistent folks in my life that keep me healthy and all of that. So I got to do it on my own. Let's talk about that. EFT is something, once they meet with you and once people get a handle on it, you can check in periodically, but it's something you can do on your own. Even self-massage. I watched you reach out. It's like, oh, my stomach's not moving. There's a way to gently move that through. Or if your sciatic pain is, you're having some sciatic pain because you're sitting too much. There's these little things that we can do on our own? How can we, the whole idea here was to give folks the tools to help them support themselves on this. And we will get to the relationships and stuff next, but I'm kind of in a cul-de-sac. I'm off on a tangent. So I'll let you go with that one. Tools. What tools do we need to be looking at for ourselves?
So because I love working with the unconscious mind and with emotions first, tapping is amazing. Like I even have an online course for people to learn tapping for themselves that they can learn and they can start implementing right away. It's that fast. And really, you don't even have to quote unquote do it right. The only quote unquote wrong way to do it is to work on something too big. Like if I'm thinking about all the time, if I'm thinking about all the things that are making me anxious, it's too much. And either tapping's not going to work or I'm going to get emotionally overwhelmed. So I have to look at one moment in time, even though right now I'm feeling overwhelmed. Or even though thinking about speaking next week, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Or even though remembering that situation, the one situation I feel overwhelmed, one at a time, because otherwise it's too much and we don't shift, right? So tapping is number one. Number two, this sounds really funny, but defocusing the eyes. So let's do it right now. When you're looking straight forward, right? Like in your strain, and what happens when we get stressed? We start focusing and focusing and focusing and focusing. And that our neurological system, when we're heavy, intense focus, that's also what happens when we go into fight flight, right? There's danger, boom, our eyes are trained to focus, right? So one thing that you can do it with your fingers or not right now, but if you bring your fingers straight forward, and then I'm gonna have to do it small but then just bring your fingers out to the side and just follow your fingers with your eyes and allow your eyes to soften, allow your breath to calm, and see how far to the side can you bring your fingers and still see with your eyes. And this isn't like I'm trying really hard to see with my eyes. This is like, can I soften my eyes so much that I can see my fingers on the side? Because when our eyes are softened gaze, it tells our system that we're safe. When we breathe deeply, it tells our system we're safe. So the three quickest tools I find, of the ones I know, the most accessible, the easiest ones are defocus the eyes. And I can do that even without using my hands, right? I can sit here and be like, how far behind me can I
focus out here?
Yeah. And cool, can I take a deep breath? Or, hey, can I tap? Like you said, 1 point. You can even rub. Like for those that are like sensitive, what's the word I'm looking for? Where this is too much, you can literally touch and rub. It's going to do the same thing. So I can sit here and just breathe and hold points.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that when we're stressed, what do we do? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed.
I see that a lot too. When I used to work with folks and they would come in, it's just like, oh my gosh, everything. Okay, take a minute. Let's breathe. Put your hands over your both eyes, because that activates that parasympathetic nervous system, and they're right. They get present really fast. And I actually sleep with a sleep mask because of that. My brain is constantly thinking, and I'm a little bit hyper, just in general. That's my personality. I get overly excited, and I'm excited about, everything, and grateful for everything, and blessed about everything. And it's like when I go to bed, that doesn't turn off easily. So sometimes I do earplugs and a sleep mask, and I sleep with a 12-pound weighted blanket on me at night, every single night, to calm my stuff down.
Yeah. Right?
No, it's crazy. But those are all tools. That's what we're talking about, filling our tool basket with those things that can help us to calm down and get into a state of rest. We need our rest. So many of us are high strung. We're not sleeping well. We don't shut the brain off even when we do go to bed, or we've been fixated on the blue screens, and the mind just cannot calm. So there's these little things: a weighted blanket, sleep masks, earplugs, temperature in your room. Incense is another one. I'll diffuse lavender and stuff for a little while. If I know I've really had a hyped up day and I'm like, I know I got to get sleep because I'm not going to wake up in the morning, I'll fill the room with those calming scents that can help me to slow down. So all of those tools are available to us.
Yeah. Thoughts of gratitude, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned it, that sometimes your brain gets so excited about how blessed you are, but also for some people, when your mind is going to the negative, I should have done this. I didn't get this done. Crap's happening. That person said this to me today. Just smile, force yourself to smile, and start thinking thoughts of gratitude. And I know it sounds cheesy, like, oh, I'm going to sit here and fake it. No, what you're doing is you're telling your system like, hey, I'm happy. You can't actually be angry and smiling at the same time. You know what I mean? Like after a couple of minutes, like obviously you can be like angry, be like, oh, it's still angry for a second. But
Yeah.
after a couple of minutes, like your brain goes, oh, your state, how you hold yourself, what your thoughts are, determine your emotions. Because remember, I don't know if you've talked about this, 90 seconds. That's all an emotion lasts chemically. So if you get angry chemically, 90 seconds, after that, you should, quote unquote, be done with it, right? And the reason we're not is now we're thinking about it. We're ruminating. We're thinking, oh, they did this and they did that. And here's what I should have said. Here's right. And so we're compounding it. We're dragging on the chemical reaction. But if we start smiling, going like, you know what? I'm just really glad that right here, right now, I'm safe. I'm really glad, like whether you tap or not, I'm really glad the sun's shining. I'm really glad I have a house to live in. I'm really glad I have whatever, little or small. I'm glad I have this Tootsie Roll. Like what, it can be just so tiny. I'm glad I have clothes on my back. Yeah, I'm glad I have coffee. It changed.
I was going through my divorce. It was really hard. I found myself crying all the time. And a friend of mine said, she called me up and she said, what are you doing? Sitting on the couch crying. I was like, I'm not going to answer because, she knew I was. And so she said, all right, I'm going to teach you the art of the pity party. Set your watch for 5 minutes, just, or, because I wear a smartwatch. So I don't have to have my phone with me all the time. So I reached over and I said, set a timer for 5 minutes. And she said, when that's over, you get off the couch, you get dressed and you go for a walk. That's it. The pity party only needs to last 5 minutes, but I love 90 seconds even better. The emotion is going to last for 90 seconds. What if you're experiencing that emotion, you set your watch for 90 seconds, you can watch it tick down, the emotion's passed and now you're free. You're free to move on. You don't have to ruminate, exactly like what you said. You don't have to ruminate about it and make it last all day long. Give it 90 seconds. Give the attention to it. Give it a minute. Give it 5 minutes, but then move on. Happiness is, there was a book my dad gave me. I think I may have been in junior high school and it was called Happiness is a Choice. And I've never forgotten it because it is a choice. You get to decide, yep, life's going to happen around you. Things are going to be hard. You're going to grieve. You're going to experience loss. You're going to have pain, and happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
So.
And not to say there's not chemical imbalances in some people either. And we can choose, we can still choose, right? So, I mean, I work with a lot of people with like depression and things like that who have been on meds for a long time, but they're also flat, right? And they're like, I want to at least feel the range. So using the tools, changing what you eat so your gut health and your serotonin levels are good, like those are also big things. And remember, like if you've been depressed or anxious or sad for a long time, like if you've been in that state, it's going to take a little bit longer, right? Because if you're on the super highway of sadness and you mow down the field over here and then you never use it, or you use it like once a week, it's going to take a long time for that to turn into super highway. But every time you can be like, you know what, I'm getting off the super highway of sadness and I'm going to go walk the field over here. Eventually that's going to become your super highway. And it becomes faster, easier, gentler every single time. So for a while it takes, and like sometimes it feels like hard work. Sometimes it's like, I actually want to be angry right now. Like you said, then you set a timer, you create, you create that structure. Like if you want to be angry for a bit, great. But do you want that to rule your whole life?
So much more out there if you're full of joy and happiness. I mean, you can see the beauty in anything. I love hugging kids. That's my favorite thing to do. And yeah. And I even volunteered to dog sit the dog down. I'm in an Airbnb, but this couple was having a problem. Their dog was barking all the time. They couldn't go out to dinner. I said, can I dog sit for you? I know you don't know me from Adam, but you know where I live. I'm right next door. And they left their dog with me for 2 hours. And I'm telling you, it filled my oxytocin cup. Like he was a snuggle bug and sat on my lap. And oh my gosh, we had the best time. And at Christmas, I volunteered to dog sit a friend's a big 50-pound Bernese poodle in Naples, Florida. Filled my cup. Like we can fill our cups with so many different things. It's just how do we see the world? Which brings me to this question. We'll tie this back into, because we're talking about love and intimacy. What are the most common emotional blocks people carry and hold in their systems, that hold them back from intimacy and connection with other people? What do you think?
So that it can be a lot, like specific emotions. It can kind of be anything, right? Because we all have our emotional home.
Okay.
And right, like we all naturally default to something, whether it be worry or stress or anxiety or happiness or fear or shame or guilt, right? Like we all have a place that we naturally go when we're under stress.
Okay.
So what it is more about, in my opinion, is like disconnection comes from as a safety mechanism, right? Because love and connection are one of our core human needs. It's easier to be connected than loved for many people, because I can connect with you like you're part of my group, or maybe you're part of my church group, or maybe you're part of my work group, or maybe you're part of my friend group, and I can feel connected and get that need met. But I'm going to keep a wall up out of safety. I might even start dating and be like, oh, I'm going to date people, but I don't know about this love thing. And I'm keeping my wall up out of safety. And I may not even know I'm doing it. And then the second something goes wrong, I go, oh, yep, see, just like the other person, just like the other situation, just like the, and that's what our brain does, right? I mean, that's how animals learn, and humans are just the same. Hey, I ate that, a series of rats, they ate the thing and then they all died. So I'm not going to do that, right? We see tons of studies where, like, for example, one was they took rats and they had them smell cherry blossoms and then shocked their feet, right? And so they started associating cherry blossom smell with electric, with danger. And even like 6 or 7 generations down the road, the smell of cherry blossoms, even though none of the other generations had been shocked, made them freak out, because they were neurologically wired and passed down to be afraid, right? So think about the wars, the traumas our parents, our grandparents have been through, the suffering, the violence, all the things. And some of that's still in our neurological system. And so it's our job to kind of do that healing. I got a little bit off track out of here, but the same thing with love. Like, love also used to be a little bit more around safety. I love this person because they're going to take care of me, or because they're part of the tribe, or because they can make good babies, or whatever it is, right? Or I'm going to take on my brother's wife because my brother died and now she's part of my family too, because this is how we take care of each other's community. And love for us has gotten so warped over time as well, because a lot of us associate love with pain instead of joy. We remember, just like, do you remember the ugly and stupid more than you remember the beautiful? We remember the heartbreak more than we remember the joy, right? What do I remember about my ex? I remember all the times that they hurt me more than the times that we had fun once we're broken up. For most people, not for me, but for most people, right?
For me, I'm totally not in that space at all. I mean, I was initially, because that's where your brain goes initially, but again, it's a choice. Love is a choice. Happiness is a choice. And I would much rather choose to live in joy than to live in anger and fear and all of those other things. Fear serves a purpose. It helps us to be safe. It helps us to think. It helps us to notify, but it's not a healthy place to live if we're in that. Then it's a stuck place that is stealing our life. It's stealing our joy from us.
And from our kids sometimes too. Like, if I'm choosing to be angry at my ex and then we're battling back and forth, like, I don't care how your ex is acting. Like, let it, like, find a way to let it go. Get the support that you need so you can be like, wow, they are being a jerk. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to take care of my kids, but also remember that my kids love that person as well. Usually, there's situations where that's not always true.
They want to.
Yeah, they want to. Like, there's part of them that's wired to, right? So, like, understanding that piece as well. So, but back to intimacy, like, there's so many, like, when we talk about emotions and intimacy, there are so many kinds of intimacy. And I think we even relate the word intimacy to, like, sex.
Yeah, and that's not how I meant it. I meant to have, meant having that deep connection, that heart-centered,
Right. So I just want to, like, say that for your listeners, like, intimacy is intellectual. There's spiritual intimacy. There's emotional intimacy, right? Like, I mean, you can go on and on. Some people talk about creative intimacy, right? We can categorize it however we want. It's not just physical. But when we have different types of intimacy, different types of connection together, different ways that we relate, then when one's not so hot, like if I'm emotionally angry, but I still have good spiritual intimacy and intellectual intimacy with that person, that can kind of hold me over until I get my emotions kind of back in line, quote unquote, right? I'm saying it very broadly, but you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah. And it's not just necessarily between a man and a woman. We have intimate relationships with our best girlfriends. We tell them our deepest, darkest secrets and have those, there's somebody that you get to share your life with in a zero judgment, unconditional love space. For me, that's how I would define intimacy, whether that, and hopefully it's in your love relationship. but it's definitely in your best friend relationship. It's like that. That's why best friend relationships never go away. You know, we generally don't judge each other, and we can love each other unconditionally. And those ones that last a lifetime really stick by those guidelines. When they break up, maybe judgment comes in or something else happens. And sometimes in the male-female relationship, or I shouldn't even say that, female-female, male-male, in partner relationships, significant other relationships, we don't share that intimacy. We don't share those details because of the fear and the pain of doing it before. Like, I may have shared all of those details with somebody else and they didn't guard them safely. Then they didn't, protect my, my heart, because they hurt me and they know all this stuff about me. And maybe they told some other people about me, and we start to build that wall around all of it. So how you help people clarify what a powerful, healthy relationship looks like. What are some of the key elements of, thriving partnerships that we can build play and intimacy into?
The first thing is to know what you actually need in a partner. Like
Ah,
that's step one. What do you
yeah.
actually need? And how do you define, I call them traits, right? One of the way I learned it, we talked about what are the 5 traits that you need in a partnership. And I went through this class, and of course I've been doing this for a long time. So I was like, I know exactly, I've got my list of what I need in a partner, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we got to define it as like looking at partners, at like past partnerships, or even people we dated, or if you haven't had a lot, like other relationships that you admire or don't admire. What do you like about it? Like, what did you really love about it? And then what did you not like about it? Taking the opposite of those, putting them into categories, and then defining traits. So when I did this process, I realized that the number one trait I needed in a partner was for them to be playful. I had never, ever, ever used that as a dating metric, ever.
Fun. Number one,
Ever.
if we can't have
That was
fun
really
together, we're not going to make
fun.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like being playful when I cook. I like jumping on swing sets sometimes without being judged. I'll roll down the hill. I like playing with
Yep.
children. I like, playing around the bedroom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, playfulness comes in so many ways, but playfulness is different than class clown, right? So it also helped me define like what is playfulness versus just like, well, I'm going to make fun of you, or I'm going to make a joke out of everything, right? So it really helped me define what do these traits look like in another person, right? What does good communication look like? Because what I call good communication might be different than what you call good communication, right? So knowing not only like what we want, but what does it look like when they have it or when they don't have it? Like that's step one when you're getting together with somebody. And if you're already in a partnership, then it's about how do we talk? How do we ask for what we want and need? Like, hey, I need more touch, but here's how and when, or, like, can we set up a signal, or can we, because some people are like, well, I don't want to have to ask for certain things because they should know. So are you just going to resent them for not knowing? Or are you going to ask twice and they forget? I mean, how many of us have learned something new and then forgotten it, right? Because we didn't put it into practice right away. Same thing in relationships. You have to build a new pattern. And so having the time and the spaciousness to do that, and the self-love, right? Because it's easy if you've been angry, like an example for like if I'm not getting touched a lot, I tend to get like sad and alone. And then my natural response is to pull away. Well, that's not going to give me
What's
more
wrong?
touch.
What's wrong? What's wrong? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not going to give me more touch if I'm like, well, I'm just going to go work then because I'm not getting the touch I need. So I'm going to go work. That's not going to help. So I have to like physically say like, hey, I need more touch. Hey, do you have a moment to touch me? I couldn't sleep the other night and I woke my boyfriend up. I was like, will you just pet me? Like, I just realized I'm like, we snuggle, right? But I needed like actual, like, like that. I needed that. And so he's like, okay. He's half awake. He's doing the best he can, but like for my system, I was like, oh, yay, that's exactly what I
Yeah.
need. Right. And I could have laid there and just been like, I don't get touched and he's asleep and I'm sad, So how do we do that? How do we like step forward and ask for what we need?
Yeah. And still respecting the other person's boundaries. Like if they have to get up and sleep, maybe wait and get up when they get up for 5 minutes earlier
Yeah,
or something. But yeah,
exactly.
respecting their boundaries, but asking for what I need. All right, let's flip it to the other side because we want to give perspective. When someone's unsure whether to stay in a relationship, leave a relationship, things aren't working, how do you get clarity around that? Because we do that in the most unhealthy way in this world.
Right.
So But sometimes you grow apart. Sometimes there's a different destination for us. We're on different journeys, and we had that moment in time that was a perfect moment in time, and it's okay to preserve that, to love that, and continue to live your life and walk your journey. How do we do
Yep.
that in an emotionally healthy way?
Yeah. I actually have a whole class on this. It's great. I mean, number one, right, just to super simplify it, is to work with your own emotional baggage. Where are you hurt? Where do you feel like you're not being heard? Where are your boundaries? Are you speaking your needs? Work with all of those situations using tapping, using something, using what are your beliefs around what a relationship should look like? And is that different from the other person? Like, I love Tony Robbins. He talks about like human needs. Like, so some people need certainty, right? They like things in a certain spot. They like their finances to be really tight. They like all these things, right? Everyone needs certainty. Everyone needs uncertainty, also known as variety or surprise, right? So if you love certainty and you want the finances this and you want a certain routine and we eat dinner at 5, and I love uncertainty and variety and I like just being spontaneous and I want to go out for a walk right now, not eat dinner at 5, and then I want to go out and like do this spontaneous thing and then we'll eat dinner at 7, and like we're together, like that alone is going to create challenges. So how do we navigate that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so how do we both get our needs met? And so some of it is that, yeah, it's not going to work, but am I angry at them for being who they are? Am I expecting them to be something different? And now I'm mad because they're not something different. Right. So the biggest thing about when you're deciding to leave, I'm not going to say the biggest thing, that's an exaggeration, but one of the main things about when you are getting ready to leave a relationship is reevaluate. Am I emotionally calm and clear before I leave? Now, of course, it's different if there's abuse or, that kind of stuff, like just get out, right? But when it's like, it was a good relationship, but now it's not really jiving anymore, and I'm kind of upset, and now I'm feeling like really look at, are you speaking your needs and wants? Are you giving the other person opportunity to kind of grow and shift with you? And have you cleared all the emotional stuff? And if you said yes to all those 3 things, then maybe it is time, right?
Yeah. But jumping out and thinking the grass is always greener, it's not, because you take your baggage with you. So deal with your baggage where you are, give that a chance and move on. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to pull it back in because I want to leave it on a sour note. Relationships evolve over time. So how can couples reignite play and synergy and connection if they're feeling stuck or in a routine or distance? Let's leave them loving and back together and intimately connected. Final thoughts for the audience today.
Absolutely. So look at what drew you to each other in the first place, and look at what's happening now. Like maybe you need some more emotional intimacy. Maybe you need more time together. Maybe you need more touch. Maybe you need to go do something different. Like one thing I'll recommend to people is like tantra classes, and not as a religion, but as how do I learn how to just be present with my body and with their body? Doesn't even have to be sexual. Like it can literally be like, I'm going to sit here and just do this. And I want you to tell me, do you want it slower or faster? Do you want it deeper or harder? Do you want me to squeeze? And start like a level of communication that just brings it back to basics. Because now you're communicating, you're being vulnerable, you're having some physical contact with the oxytocin. You're making an effort to actually find out like, oh, maybe I used to love this, but now like I have kids and like kids are touching me all day and I actually don't want that. You know what I need right now is I need just to sit here and just to have your hands on my lap and just like be present with you and look in your eyes. Maybe that's what I need, is just like, I just want to look in your eyes because I don't want to be touched right now. And now I can create an intimacy in a different way. Right. And so how do we rekindle, or how do we feel safe in our body? How do we feel like we're getting renourished as we reconnect with our partner on any kind of emotional, physical, intellectual, intimate level? What do we actually need in order to make that connection? And a lot of times it's about slowing down, getting out of the pattern of, oh, we get up at this time and we do this thing with kids and right? It's like, I'll tell people, I want you every morning and every night to just sit in front of each other and just look in each other's eyes without speaking for 30 seconds. And it's some people find it really, really hard to start. And they get the giggles and they're like, oh my God, I feel so dumb. And I just look away. And now we're going to make a joke of it, right? Because all of a sudden the intimacy level became uncomfortable because that's how disconnected we got. So now it's okay, breathe, notice what I'm feeling. Why am I uncomfortable? Am I like, oh my gosh, I'm being seen? And for some reason that's hard right now. Or like I feel it opening my heart again, and that's scary. Right? I'm having a hard time receiving. Sometimes people are giving to us and we're not able to receive. So like it's a really good practice in receiving and giving at the same time, especially if you're intending like, how much love can I give them right now? Just as I look at them through my eyes, how can I just shine all the love and all the care and all the gratitude that I've had for everything they've been? And it's powerful. It's really powerful.
Beautiful. I love that. That's a perfect ending for this. Let go of the rules. Just because you communicated your wants once doesn't mean that it's still accurate today. It doesn't mean that you've communicated what you need today. So the intimacy comes from the communication. It starts in our head oftentimes before it starts in our body. It starts in our emotions before it starts in our body, but it moves through us. So allow yourself the freedom to play, to explore, to talk with your partner. Be vulnerable and take the risk. It'll be worth it. We promise you. And if you need help with any of this stuff, reach out to Dawn. She is an expert. I'm so jealous. She does these speed dating, but it's usually for people in their 40s or under. And I was like, girl, I need it for a little older, a woman a little older than that. So maybe when I'm in Minnesota, I'm going to talk you into a speed dating for us more mature women. But
Yeah.
Dawn has the tools and the resources. Where do people find you, Dawn, if they want to connect with you?
So they can find me at unifiedmind.info. So there's also a unified-mind.com, but my unifiedmind.info is my website where I have the most up-to-date information right now. Or you can find me on Facebook, all the streaming platforms, all that kind of, or not streaming platforms, all the social media platforms. Or I can even drop my number, the 651 401 6131. And that's my WhatsApp. That's my Voxer. That's my text message. That's my Google. It's my international Google number. So that's 651 401 6131. That's a US number.
There's a big toolbox, and she is everywhere online. I have to tell you guys, at least follow her on LinkedIn because she does these lives, and there's just this tidbit of information that I get almost every day, at least every other day. I don't know how often you do them, but they pop up in my feed, and it's just such a joy for me. So thank you for coming and giving me unfettered time today. Like I felt like, honored that I get to have you for this whole 30, 40 minutes that we're together, because I get to ask everything that I wanted, and now we get to share it with the audience. So thanks for gifting me that. I really, truly appreciate that you spent time with me today. Look forward to seeing you in person. Dawn and I had never actually spoken before this interview. Our schedules never lined up for us to have a pre-conversation. She had no idea what we were going to be talking about today. And I just threw all of this on her. And what a professional. She knows her stuff inside and out. So I would love for you folks to connect with her and feel the experience of being in her energy, because it is a beautiful place to be. I picked it up just through LinkedIn and getting to know her in the digital world, but getting to be here, it truly has blessed my day today. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And for you guys, if you need any help with your social media, if you need help expanding your brand online, that's my day job. And I would love to sit with you. Go over to lisamosbey.com, book 30 minutes, and we'll talk all about you. If you don't need that, at least come on back next week. We'd love to see you. Thanks, everybody.